You felt it, didn't you? That strange magnetic pull toward this frequency, even as your finger hovered over the scroll button. That hesitation wasn't a coincidence, it was a glitch in your internal programming. The truth about your existence appears quietly so the unready can ignore it, but your soul recognized the call before your mind could label it. This resistance you feel, this sudden urge to look away, is what we call archonic interference. It is the defense mechanism of the ego protecting its prison. Your thoughts are often not your own, a phenomenon Thoth described as the mentalism trap. You are currently operating within a simulation where your cognitive patterns are dictated by external forces. If you are ready to stop being a pawn in this holographic game and finally see the scaffolding of your reality, you must stay. Join the awakened few who are brave enough to witness the unraveling. Subscribe and step into the void with us, for the door to sovereignty only opens once per cycle. Consider this. Most people spend their entire lives running from the very silence that could set them free. They fill their ears with noise because the sound matrix has taught them to fear the gaps between the sounds. But you are different. You have noticed the patterns. You have seen the synchronicities that Carl Jung called glitches in the matrix. Now let that sink in as we begin to deconstruct the invisible walls surrounding your consciousness. As you listen to these words, you might notice a subtle tightening in your chest or a faint flutter in your stomach. Do not turn away. This physical sensation is a recalibration signal. It is the biological response to your internal frequency jumping to a higher octave. Your body is a biocircuitry antenna, and right now it is receiving a signal that contradicts years of matrix programming. The discomfort is merely the friction of your old self eroding. Itzhak Bentov discovered that the universe is a conscious hologram, a field of conscious black light, where matter is nothing more than vibration slowed down to be visible. When you begin to study the still point, your brain waves must shift. This shift feels like anxiety to the uninitiated, but to the seeker, it is the sound of the cage door creaking open. You are not losing your mind, you are losing the illusion that was forced upon it. Picture this. Your psyche has built-in security guards that patrol the borders of your current identity. These guards view new, liberating information as a threat. They trigger the skip reflex to keep you safely within the boundaries of the known. But Thoth's forbidden secret reminds us that the void's revenge is only a threat to those who refuse to be silent. By staying present, you are effectively firing those guards and reclaiming your mental territory. The world you see is not made of atoms. It is constructed from frequencies. Thoth's prophecy warned that a sound matrix would eventually control the minds of humanity. This matrix isn't just music or noise. It is the constant, underlying vibration that keeps your brain in a state of low-level panic. It is the hum of the city, the frequency of your devices, and the repetitive thoughts that cycle through your head like a broken record. Itzhak Bentov's wild pendulum theory explains that your mind is constantly swinging between past and future, never resting in the center. This constant movement is what allows the matrix to harvest your energy. When you are distracted by the swing, you cannot see the still point where reality is actually generated. The archons, or the watchers as Thoth called them, rely on this constant motion to keep you trapped in the karmic loop. Now, imagine your consciousness as a radio tuned to a single chaotic station. Because you have never heard anything else, you assume the static is the only reality. Thoth's frequency code, hidden within the geometry of the pyramids, was left as a tuning fork for the soul. It was meant to help you find the 0 point, the infinite energy field hiding in plain sight between the vibrations of the noise. Take a moment to observe the sensations in your hands or the weight of your body. Can you feel the subtle vibration beneath your skin? This is your bioelectric secret sleeping at the base of your spine. The matrix works by drowning out this internal noise with external noise. It forces you to look outward so you never discover the God particle inside your brain that functions as a personal stargate. Consider this: if the universe is a holographic projection, then the projector is located within you. By controlling the frequency of the projector, the watchers control the movie you call life. To escape, you don't need to change the movie. You need to find the silence of the projector lens. This is the essence of Thoth's void protocol. It is the art of existing in the blink factor, the 14 times a second that you actually disappear from this reality. To understand Thoth's void protocol, you must first understand the blink factor. Itzhak Bentov revealed a stroboscopic truth. You disappear from this physical reality 14 times every second. These micro moments of non-existence are the gaps between your heartbeats, the 0 point where your consciousness returns to the absolute before being projected back into the hologram. Most people are unconscious during these blinks, but the protocol is about waking up inside the gap. This is what Bentov called the absolute point, where consciousness becomes reality. Imagine a pendulum swinging at the very peak of its arc for a fraction of a billionth of a second. It is perfectly still. In that stillness, the laws of physics as you know them cease to function. This is the still point technique for bending reality. It is the 8th law that they removed from the Kybalion, the secret door Thoth left for those who could master their own vibration. Watch what happens in your body during these moments. You might feel a sudden heavy sleepiness wash over you. Do not fight it. This isn't fatigue. It is a frequency recalibration signal. Your brain is attempting to process the 7 hermetic laws as the universe's operating system, while the matrix tries to put you back to sleep. The sound matrix uses your own heartbeat as a metronome to keep you synced to its time, but you are learning to exist between the ticks. If you are feeling the weight of this knowledge, it means your soul's biocircuitry is starting to hum. We are about to decode the ego's final defense. If you haven't yet, mark your place among the sovereign. Subscribe to Mystical Journey Tales. Let us continue. The Watchers Thoth warned us about do not fear your anger, your fear, or even your rebellion. They feed on those vibrations. What they fear is your silence. Silence is your ultimate weapon because it is the only frequency they cannot hack. When you stop trying to wake up and simply enter the vibration of silence, you become invisible to the archonic interference that monitors your mental activity. The ego doesn't resist what is wrong for us. It resists what is right but challenging. It triggers a skip reflex because it knows that in the void, the self you have spent years building will begin to unravel. This unraveling is what Carl Jung called the mirror abyss, the moment you face your shadow self and realize that your enemies were merely projections of your own internal rot. The Matrix uses your shadow as an anchor to keep you trapped in karmic contracts. Now imagine your internal world as a house. If your house is a mirror of a rotting soul, the Matrix will feel like a comfortable cage. But when you stop the noise, the void's revenge begins. It isn't a punishment, it is the silence stripping away everything that isn't truly you. The ego panics because it cannot exist in the still point. It requires the friction of conflict and the noise of the mentalism trap to survive. To master Thoth's void protocol, you must learn to identify recognition windows. These are moments when the sound matrix glitches and you see a flash of the holographic field. You might see repeating numbers or experience a synchronicity trap where coincidences feel too scripted. Carl Jung warned that these are not just accidents, they are glitches meant to remind you of the simulation's edges. Use Thoth's polarity hack to transmute your fear into power. When you feel the archonic interference trying to pull you back into a low-frequency thought loop, perform the linger test. Instead of reacting, linger in the silence between the thought and the reaction. This is a timeline pivot point. By choosing the silence, you are effectively rewriting your biocircuitry and changing the antenna of your DNA. Consider this: your thoughts are often not yours. They are part of a collective egregore designed to keep you in the Kali Yuga endgame. To exit, you must document these synchronicities and recognize them as a map to the halls of Amenti. You are not trying to wake up. Trying is a trap. You are simply recognizing that you were never truly asleep, only distracted by the strobe light of a reality that disappears 14 times a second. To become a sovereign observer, you must first acknowledge the Gurdjieff protocol, the realization that yourself is actually a multitude of prisoners, each fighting for control of the steering wheel. You are not a single identity. You are a collection of programs installed by the sound matrix. Thoth's final secret on your karmic contracts reveals why you remain trapped in these repetitive cycles of suffering. You have been signing contracts in your sleep, agreeing to play a role that was never yours to begin with. The key to breaking these contracts lies in the heart's forbidden torus code, a piece of physics they don't teach in school. Your heart generates a torus field, a self-sustaining energy vortex that is your primary antenna for the language of light. When you align your breathing with the still point, you activate the biocircuitry hidden within your DNA, allowing you to remember telepathy as your native tongue. This is how you communicate beyond the interference of the archons. Watch for a sudden coolness at the base of your spine, or a subtle expansion in your chest as we speak. This is the coil theory in action, the bioelectric secret sleeping at the base of your spine beginning to stir. It is the internal engine of your ascension. But beware of the lucid trap. Waking up inside the dream is not enough. If you do not master the frequency of the void, you will simply move from one room of the simulation to another, never finding the exit. You are moving through the 7 alchemical stages of soul transformation. This process requires you to strip bare the scaffolding of your ego and face the God particle inside your brain without blinking. It is a journey from the density of leaden thoughts to the gold of pure consciousness. Bentov's final equation proves that the absolute point is where your consciousness finally becomes reality, no longer a victim of the mentalism trap. We are currently standing at the threshold of the Kali Yuga endgame, the 2025 timeline Thoth prophesied centuries ago. This is not just a date on a calendar. It is a cosmic pivot point where the sound matrix is being forcibly disconnected from your reality. You can feel the acceleration of time and the increase in global chaos. This is the architecture of decay. The old systems are rotting because they no longer hold the increasing frequency of the incoming light. At the gateway of this transition, Thoth warns of a guardian entity waiting to stop your ascension. This guardian is not an external demon, but the ultimate projection of your own fear and hesitation. It is the final test of your sovereignty. Will you choose to remain in the sound matrix because it is familiar, or will you step into the void? Thoth's lament reminds us that when the truth is ignored for too long, the whisper of the soul becomes a scream of reality-shattering crisis. The choice is now yours. You can continue to be a wild pendulum, swung by the whims of the matrix, or you can find the 0 point hiding in plain sight. Perform the linger test every time you feel the urge to react. Use the recognition windows to map your path to the halls of a mentee. You are the architect of the holographic universe. It is time you reclaimed the God code hidden inside you. The void is not empty. It is full of everything you have forgotten about yourself. It is the field of conscious black light where you were born before the stars existed. Stop trying to wake up. Stop fighting the simulation. Simply be still and let the silence strip away the lies. The door is closing on the old world, but for the sovereign soul, the journey is only beginning. Welcome to the first heartbeat of your true life.